Dear reader, I'm Tony, and this is Book Text. Today I have my June TBR, but first, our word of the day is the word anythingarian. Anythingarian. It's a noun. It means one who professes no creed. To me, it sounds like that would be a nothingarian, and that an anythingarian would be someone who believes in just about anything. But there you go, an anythingarian. It's kind of an antiquated word. So I have a lot of books that I am hoping to read in June. My kind of early part of summer class is ending, and so I won't be having to read and grade papers. So I'm hoping to have a little bit more brain power for reading other things. This list does not include audiobooks that I'm planning to listen to, just because I can't schedule those out. It's hard to guarantee when things come in and when they're available and how long it will take me to listen to them and so on. It also does not include my writing reading, so the things that I read to improve my own writing, which I'm planning to follow Ray Bradbury's advice and read one short story, one essay, and one poem a day. He suggests for 1,000 days. We'll see how far I can get. But I do have books that I'm planning to read. So, without further ado, I have Anita Brookner's The Debut. This is a novel, and I'm just going to read the back cover for you because I don't know that much about it. Dr. Ruth Weiss is a brilliant but solitary scholar who has spent her life escaping into the pages of books, finding refuge in friendship with Anna Karenina, Emma Bovary, and Little Dorrit to avoid the tyranny of her parents. But now, nearing 40 and unable to fully escape the dysfunction of her past and isolation, she begins to wonder, can you change your life when so much of it has already been lived? And here's the first line. Dr. Weiss, at 40, knew that her life had been ruined by literature. I think that Dr. Weiss and I are going to have some things in common. Looking forward to reading this. Then I have Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Strout. Again, this is another book I don't know a lot about. At times stern, and at other times patient, at times perceptive, at other times in sad denial, Olive Kitteridge, a retired school teacher, deplores the changes in her little town of Crosby, Maine, and in the world at large, but she doesn't always recognize the changes in those around her. A lounge musician haunted by a past romance, a former student who has lost the will to live, Olive's own adult child who feels tyrannized by her irrational sensitivities, and her husband, Henry, who finds his loyalty to his marriage both a blessing and a curse. So as far as I know, this is a book kind of about Olive, but seen through many different perspectives, the people around her and her own perspective. So that should be interesting. And here is the first line. For many years, Henry Kitteridge was a pharmacist in the next town over, driving every morning on snowy roads, on rainy roads, or summertime roads, when the wild raspberries shot their new growth in brambles along the last section of town, before he turned off to where the wider road led to the pharmacy. So, I love that, the kind of repetition of phrasing about the roads, the beautiful description of the wild raspberries in the summer. I think I'm going to enjoy the writing in this book as well as the story. Then I have a book by an author whose works I have collected, almost the entire, her entire work I've got on my shelves, but I haven't read anything yet by her. So I've decided to start with the earliest book that I have of hers. So I don't have her first one, if not the first couple. I'm not sure exactly where this one falls, but this is the earliest one that I have. It is The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton. What a gorgeous book. So I know a little bit about Kate Morton, but I don't know a ton about this particular story. So again, I'm just going to read off the back cover. A tiny girl is abandoned on a ship headed for Australia in 1913. She arrives completely unknown with nothing but a small suitcase containing a few clothes and a single book, a beautiful volume of fairy tales. She is taken in by the dockmaster and his wife and raised as their own. On her 21st birthday, they tell her the truth, and with her sense of self shattered and very little to go on, Nell sets out to trace her real identity. Her quest leads her to Blackhurst Manor on the Cornish coast, and the secrets of the doomed Montrachet family. But it is not until her granddaughter Cassandra takes up the search, after Nell's death, that all the pieces of the puzzle are assembled. A spellbinding tale of mystery and self-discovery. The Forgotten Garden will take hold of your imagination and never let go. So I love that idea of kind of crossing different time periods, looking at it's very clearly historical, but that it takes place at different points in history, and in particular around this one woman's life. Also, the setting sounds really, really lovely. The first line of this book is, "It was dark where she was crouched, but the little girl did as she'd been told." I love that kind of darkness, mysterious first line. It's quite a hefty book too, so that might take me a while to get through. I'm realizing now how ambitious I am with my June TBR. I next have My Life in Middlemarch by Rebecca Mead. And this is nonfiction. It's kind of a mix. Well, I mean, the back cover will tell us a little bit about it, but it's a mix of like biography and memoir and reporting. And probably also literary analysis, since referencing Middlemarch very clearly. So here's what the back cover says. A New Yorker writer, Rebecca Mead, was a young woman in an English coastal town when she first read George Eliot's Middlemarch, regarded by many as the greatest English novel. I have myself read Middlemarch in one of my college courses and thought it was fascinating. So much to kind of dive into there. A lot. I don't remember everything about the book, but I remember enough. After gaining admission to Oxford and moving to the United States to become a journalist, through several love affairs, then marriage and family, Mead read and reread Middlemarch. In this wise and revealing work of biography, reporting, and memoir, she leads us into the life that the book has made for her, as well as the many lives the novel has led since it was written. That's a fascinating idea for me, as much as I think about books and reading, for books to kind of live lives as they become entangled in the lives of their readers and they take on new life with every new reader and every new perspective, new mindset. That's fascinating to me. So here's the first line in the prelude. When I was 17 years old and still living in the seaside town where I spent my childhood, I would go for a few hours every Sunday morning to the home of a retired teacher of English literature to talk about books. But we all need someone like that to talk about books with us, hence we're on BookTube. So looking forward to reading something that's a little bit different from kind of my regular heavily fiction TBRs. Next. I held this book recently. This is The Orphan of Salt Winds by Elizabeth Brooks. And this is supposed to be a Gothic tale along the lines of something written by Daphne du Maurier, Our Lady of the Modern Gothic. So the back cover is actually the same as the first line, so I'll just read the back cover to us. Virginia Rathmell knows she will walk into the marsh one day, New Year's Eve, and meet her end there. She's known it for years. Throughout her adolescence and adulthood, she spent the last days of every December on edge, waiting for a sign. So when one finally arrives in her 86th year, there's no good reason to feel dismayed. I can't wait to figure out what's going on there. It sounds like a kind of a very Gothic setting, mysterious storyline, signs, weird things happening. Looking forward to doing something a little bit dark with my reading. We're almost there. This is a lot to get through, I know. Next I have Evening Class by Maeve Binchy. And I just love this painting on the cover. Most of her books that I own have these beautiful paintings. And I have to read the back jacket flap for this one, not the back cover, because it's just a picture of Maeve on the back. In writing that is wise and evocative, powerful and moving, Maeve Binchy brings to life a story of families and lovers, of unrealized passions and moments of triumph, of wounds made by caring too much or not caring at all. And in evening class, she shows us the power of a dream to expand horizons and transform clerks and school teachers into heroes. I want to be a hero. Even though I'm not a school teacher per se, I do teach at a school. It's just a university. So that doesn't really make me a school teacher, but I want to be a hero. And so as far as I am aware, from what I know, this book is about several people taking an evening class, and you kind of get to dive in and out of their lives as they have all come together for this one purpose. And the first sentence is, there was a time back in 1970 when they would love filling in a questionnaire. That tells you a lot about the character right away. Looking forward to my first Maeve Binchy. This is another author whose works I have collected and yet not started reading, so I need to start. And that one seemed like a fun place to start. Okay, I have another nonfiction book. This is A History of Reading by Alberto Manguel. And he has written a lot about books and libraries and bookshops and reading. I mean, everything that I love, everything that BookTube loves, he has written about it extensively. I remember reading, I don't remember what it was called, but another one of his books where he basically had like a reading diary. It was like a year of reading or something like that. I'll try to put the name in the description below once I look it up. But I thought it was really interesting, and it inspired me to keep my own reading diary, which didn't last very long, but I've maybe learned some things that I've implemented into my BookTube. So I'm interested in discovering the history of reading through Alberto Manguel's writing. The back says, a history of reading is a wonderful celebration of the human race. From clay tablet to CD-ROM. Yes, Kitty, I hear you, but I'm not taking you outside. Excuse me. From clay tablet to CD-ROM, from book thieves to book burners, bibliophiles, bookfools, and saints, noted essayist Alberto Manguel follows the quirky and passionate 6,000-year-old history of the written word, whose true hero is you, the reader. If you love reading, this, at long last, is your story. I love it already, because he made me the hero as the reader. It's kind of fun. So, very first sentence is, one hand limp by his side, the other to his brow, the young Aristotle languidly reads a scroll unfurled on his lap, sitting on a cushioned chair with his feet comfortably crossed. And it's a reference to, I think, this statue there. So looking at the history of reading, just a couple of essay titles in here. Reading Shadows, The Missing First Page, The Shape of the Book, The Author as Reader, The Translator as Reader. I mean, I think I'm going to uncover a lot of really interesting elements of reading that I haven't thought about before. So really looking forward to this. I'll probably space out the essays throughout the month. Last but not least, I am participating in a read-along. This is for I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. And I have actually started this book many times before, but I have never sat down to read all the way through it. Not obviously in one sitting, but I've never finished the book. And it's high time that I do so. This is about, well, let me read you parts of the back. I Capture the Castle tells the story of a 17-year-old Cassandra and her family who live in not so genteel poverty in a ramshackle old English castle. Here she strives over 6 turbulent months to hone her writing skills. She fills 3 notebooks with sharply funny yet poignant entries. Her journals candidly chronicle the great changes that take place within the castle's walls and her own first descent into love. Descent into love, that's great. Was a fall. You fall in love, right? By the time she pens her final entry, she has captured the castle and the heart of the reader in one of literature's most enchanting entertainments. And I don't have to look up the first line for you because I can recite it. It's quite famous. I write this sitting in the kitchen sink. I love that. This read-along will take place in the latter half of the month and is hosted by several booktubers. Tia at Tia and All the Books, Angie at Literary Labors, and Rainy at Rainy Day Reads. And if there's anyone else I've forgotten, I will put that in the link below. I love doing read-alongs. I've only done a couple so far, but I've enjoyed them immensely. So I will do a read-a-thon, or a read-along in June. So those are my books that I'm hoping to read in June. I'm actually quite excited about some of them and don't want to wait until June. Is this how it always goes with TBRs? At any rate, what are you reading in June? What are you planning to read? Have you as ambitious of a TBR as I do? Please encourage me to be able to finish it. And remember, there is always another book.